Hey y'all. Well, I am really struggling with this whole making video business. This is my second try today. Second take. I tried this morning to do a video, and I found that my skills as a filmmaker are about as tragic as my hair right now. But I'm doing the best I can. So I thought, I'd try it again this morning. The light was all wrong, and I was really having a hard time keeping things in the frame. I wasn't paying close enough attention, so that was 30 minutes wasted. So I'm gonna try this again. I also, like I said, my hair was terrible. I looked like Sideshow Bob. That's definitely a coronavirus thing. That everyone's hair looks tragic right now. So what the hell? I'm not going to worry about it. But also in the morning, my allergies are really bad, so I sounded like a consumptive and not the sexy kind that you read about in the classic novels, but the gross phlegmy kind. So I'm hoping that this take will be a little bit better. I had originally thought that what I wanted was to do these videos particularly for my family, because they're so far away and several of them are avid gardeners and we love to share pics with each other, and we're not going to be able to see each other's gardens this year. But then I also thought about friends that live nearby, even, who we enjoy each other's gardens, but with the coronavirus and with the social distancing and everything, we haven't been able to share that. And a garden is a labor of love, and that's something that you really do want to share. So as much satisfaction as I get out of my garden just on my own, I want to share it. And last but certainly not least, Blair hasn't seen his garden in over 6 weeks. He'll be home by the time 7 weeks have passed, so he will be home this weekend, but he still is not even going to believe how much has changed, and I know that he wants to see it and share it with his friends and his troops that he's working with in New York. So I'm going to try not to completely mess this up with my very sorry skills as a filmmaker, and maybe I'll get better after a while, after I've done a few of these. So I'm going to start filming now, with particularly at the back of the house, and take us all the way to the front. So those of you who are gardeners, my friends, my family, you're going to like this. Everyone else, yeah, probably not so much. But okay, let's start at the back of the house. And so this is where I've been sitting. I'm on the porch right now. This is kind of cool what we've done. Always like to cheer up the back porch a little bit. So coming down here, I do want to say one thing. This is, it's nothing to look at. It's just a driveway pad, basically. It's a big cement pad, but just with the way that the house is set up and to keep the integrity of the house, we haven't been able to build a big deck, which is what we wanted. So this year, Blair and I have been talking. We're going to park the cars out front and turn this whole pad into kind of an outdoor patio area. So get some furniture out here, and at least during the summer we'll be able to sit outside and maybe eventually entertain out here. For now, that's kind of not happening. But anyway, so this is my big magnolia tree that I love in the spring. But we have several planting areas out here. This is sage from last year, came back, which is fantastic, and I still need to plant those too. Just hasn't really been a high priority, but I will plant both of those. So this is the back of the house, so you can just kind of see what we've got going on there. Way back you can see all the birds, maybe. Thus, we have a lot of feeders over there, and I fill them every morning before coffee, which Blair gives me tons of grief for, but I do fill them every morning. This right here is rain barrel. We have two of them. This is one that I've planted. Love the rain barrels. They are so great. This is the cold frame, which I had moved all of the seedlings that we started in the basement. This was their first stop on their way down to the garden, was the cold frame. Right now there's nothing in it. It's a cedar cold frame. I highly recommend cold frames to anyone who wants to extend their season. And I think we're going to be able to grow greens in this through most of the winter. So I'm really pleased with this. I like it a lot. And what you're seeing growing across the back here, this is all various types of mint that we planted last year, and mint reliably comes back, and I don't really care if it takes over this entire area. I love mint. We will never use as much as we get, but it always looks pretty, and as it starts to flower, the pollinators love it too. And back here, the one new thing is I planted some bee balm this year, and it looks really well established. I put down some cedar chips, and that's keeping away the little chipmunks that like to dig through here, and they destroyed it last year. But this year the cedar chips are doing their work. So just to back up a little bit, here's the deck that Blair built last year, which is great. I mean, it's good for 2 people. It's not nearly big enough to entertain. So that's, again, the reason that we wanted to do the driveway or that driveway pad into a patio. Okay, so we're going to come out here. It's really a nice day today. Pretty much our last temperate day, because it's going to get hot starting tomorrow, like really hot. And I am a true Norwegian. I cannot handle intense heat, so I will not be out here tomorrow. We love this little area here. I desperately need to weed it, but again, it hasn't been a high priority. But there are dozens and dozens of these little dudes growing in here, peonies. Look how pretty that is. And all different colors. And we've got them everywhere around the property. There are peonies growing absolutely everywhere. Remember we lived in Mattoon, how much we wanted peonies to grow. And here, holy crap. Yeah, okay, so here's the other rain barrel. This is on the edge of the garage. Right up here is what I call my skull garden. Just my little bit of whimsy that I established. You can barely see the skulls now, but this whole front area here has got skulls. Yeah, you can hardly see them. There's thyme and oregano growing there. So I planted all of that last year, and it comes back. And then I've got begonias on that painted palette in the back, and then creeping Jenny, which also comes back every year. And I want it to fill in this entire area, so we're letting it go. Here's a little thing that I planted last year. It's got bleeding hearts. Those blue flowers that you're seeing around are lobelia. I love them. I wish they were perennial here, but they're not. Okay. These are cherry trees. We got none of the cherries last year. One, because we didn't really know that they were cherry trees until the cherries got red. And then the squirrels and birds took care of them. What the hell? They got to eat too. So I'm coming around to the front of the house. So just to orient those who have not seen the property, this area up here, here's the house. So this is south of the driveway. There's the driveway that curves around. It's a curved driveway with 2 entrances. And so the house and everything you have seen so far is on the south of the driveway, and then north of the driveway is the garden, which I'll get to in a minute. But I do want to show you a few things that we did in the front that's different this year. Before Blair deployed, we put in some trees. So these are both peach trees. Peaches do really well here, and they are doing well. They aren't going to give us any fruit this year, but that is something we expected. Next year they should give us plenty. And then walking over here, there's some irises that I put in from the other house, from the Mattoon house that we sold, that Blair's son now lives in fact. Then this is a fig. It's a cold hardy fig. It's doing fine. It had some shock at first, but it's coming back. I've got chicken wire around it because we just don't know if rabbits or deer are going to start munching on it, so we wanted to take some precautions. And this is a pomegranate. Barely see these little sticks in here, but there is some green down there. So it did go through some shock, but it appears to be coming back, and it is a cold hardy pomegranate. And you can't see back here because holy crap, have the weeds grown. That's one plum tree, and that's another. And getting rid of these weeds, that's going to take some work, and that's on Blair's to-do list when he comes back. Sorry about the coughing. Allergies. Okay, So now we're going to go into the garden, which is sort of sprawling, but it's exactly what we want it to be. So this right here is the pumpkin patch. And I've got 5 mounds, and I have markers that birds or something keep taking out. I think it's the crows. They like to come down here, and that is exactly the thing a crow would do. Anyway, so on these 2 mounds are both the Connecticut Field pumpkins, which we grew last year. They're really good eating pumpkins. I really liked them a lot. We roasted some for seeds, but I also roasted a lot to make pumpkin bread and pumpkin pie. Really liked them. This is a Casper. This is a white pumpkin. And these, oh my God, this is chipmunk work, man. Chipmunks love to dig. So these are miniature pumpkins right here. And those are really ornamentals. And then over here is Long Island cheese, and this is supposed to be a really good one. We haven't grown it before, but it's supposed to be a really good eating pumpkin as well. And some of these we're going to give away to friends around Halloween. So they'll get used. This is a cranberry bed. So we have cranberries doing fine here. 2 of them. It's a low part of the yard, so when it rains, this is raised a bit, but when it rains, there's often standing water around, which cranberries love. It is not true that you need to bog cranberries. You only really do that if you're growing them commercially. So you just need to keep them nice and wet, which they are. So they're doing great. Okay, so here's the garden. I'm just going to give you the sweep here. So we are at the south side of the garden. And I'm going to kind of give you the perimeter tour, and then we'll go in. I love this little windmill. We've had this for years. And this weekend I cleaned it out underneath and planted some flowers. So I put some seeds down in there. I put some coxcomb seeds down. And then I will be putting some moonflowers down that they'll climb up on the windmill. They'll look really great. You can see there's a cattle fencing arbor here. We have, I don't know, 4, 5 maybe in the garden. Really an way to build an arbor, and the arbor isn't terribly visible when things are growing on it. So this will be the gate coming in. On this side I've got, this is Nicotiana. Night tobacco is what it's called, night blooming tobacco. And these are just petunias that I started. But anyway, the Nicotiana will grow up the arbor, and it'll be very showy, really pretty. On this side, we have clematis right here and here. And clematis is just really slow. It's getting started very slow. I know it will grow, but probably what I'll do to fill out the space is put some moonflowers in too. Okay, so walking into the garden. So this is the southernmost bed, which is mostly tomatoes. These are cherry tomatoes and paste tomatoes here. A lot of these are setting fruit already, even though, as you can see here, that's an atomic grape. And this is right here, one of my favorites, which is Sun Gold. Cherries always set fruit early, so they haven't even come close to finishing their vertical growth, but they will set fruit early, which is great. And this is another kind that I just grew for the first time this year. Let's see if I can see it. Yeah, this is, let's see if you can see that, how little these are. Whoop, there we go, currant tomatoes. So they're not going to get much bigger than that. They're about the size of a blueberry, but they are actually tomatoes. So they should produce. That'll be a really interesting experiment. So that's all tomatoes, and this is a very wide bed. So I wanted to fill it out. I didn't want a lot of just bare space. So what we have down here are culinary flowers, some like lavender, echinacea. I've also planted some calendula here that hasn't come up yet. But what is so interesting to me is how many volunteer tomatoes there are here. I absolutely lost count. So there's this 3 right here, 1 right here. They're everywhere. I don't know what they are. They're probably some sort of cherry tomato. But anyone who knows me as a gardener, I just simply have a terrible time pulling out healthy seedlings. So I've been letting them go. And we have intentionally planted about 92 tomato plants. And there's more volunteers here than I have even counted. Some is really making me wonder why I go to so much trouble to start them in the basement with such loving care when they basically will come up. Sorry. They'll basically come up as volunteers all over. And in fact, yesterday I was weeding in the driveway. So, the driveway up by, the house right up here. And as I was pulling weeds, I found volunteer tomatoes up there growing through the gravel. I was like, what the hell? I thought these were like little prima donnas that needed to be coaxed and loved into life, but apparently not. So anyway, I have filled out here this Love Lies Bleeding, which is in the amaranth family. So I'm hoping I don't live to regret that I've planted them, because they will definitely seed all over the garden. There's worse problems to have. This is, what are these? Zulu Prince Daisy. So they'll grow pretty tall and be pretty showy. And then I seeded all the way down to the end here, torch sunflowers. So they'll grow about maybe 4 or 5 feet tall and be really beautiful, bright orange. This I just put I had some brick laying around, so I put some nasturtiums in there, and this is chamomile, which I'm going to dry the flowers and make some tea. So this is the eastern side of the garden. So let me just step out so you can see. The trees growing here, not this tree, but that tree right there is a English walnut. So I'm hoping we will get some of the walnuts this year. Last year, the squirrels got all of them. But anyway, so this is the eastern fence line, or will be a fence once Blair is home and able to do that. So we have some boxes that we planted and established last year, and they have been replanted now. This is the strawberry box. So only thing I added here is some strawberries that I started from seed, some alpine strawberries, which are mini strawberries. These are all from last year. And look, I've got strawberries. I'm so happy to see these. So I'll be coming out and picking some of those. Probably tomorrow. They look like they could use one more day. This is roselle. Roselle is like hibiscus, so a lot of people use it for tea, but I've also seen recipes where people make like pies and jam and stuff out of it. So I was just curious to grow that, to see how it turns out. I've seeded a few in here too, in addition to these that I started in the basement. This entire thing is rosemary, and there are some plants, established plants that we put in, and then these little ones that you see there were ones that we started in the basement. So we cracked the code on growing rosemary from seed. That was not easy. That took us years to figure that out, but there it is, and this bed is full. We go through a lot of rosemary, so this is really heartening to see. This is fennel. I've also started some from seed, so they'll be coming up here pretty soon. And that's sage. I really fell in love with sage last year, so I wanted to have a lot of it. So I have this plus the stuff by the house that came up from last year. And fennel is wonderful. This right here, this is lovage, which I hadn't grown before, and I've heard it is like celery, tastes like celery. So I've seen that in a few recipes, so I wanted to grow it. Parsley, flat leaf parsley, and that is amaranth, which I think I mentioned earlier, can be a scourge in the garden. This I did not plant. It came back from last year, so I'm just going to let it go. Amaranth is so spectacular when it's really tall too. It's really beautiful. So it is a pain in the ass because it will seed, but again, worse problems to have. This little fire ring, I've got half of it planted with cilantro. The other half was chervil, and I don't think any of that came up. This is all weeds on the other half, so I need to do some research on what I'm doing wrong with growing chervil, but it's going to get hot this week. Most of the cilantro is going to bolt, so I'll have to harvest some, and then I'll just replant this other half with cilantro and see if we can get some more this year. So this long box, or bed, this got my irises. I'm going to seed the entire bottom with crimson clover, which is a nice cover crop, and it also will keep the weeds down, and it's great for pollinators. This is an experiment, new for us this year. This plant right here is lingonberry, and there's its couple. So they're supposed to do well here. We'll see. They both look fine. And then I also put some thyme down here and here, and down on the end too, because I really want to fill in this space with thyme, again, to choke back these weeds. I do not want to be weeding, and I certainly need to do it right now. So these are some blueberry plants that I put in. Got 4 of them, and I put those in a little bit, maybe 2 weeks ago now. This one is already starting to set fruit, so that's nice to see. We'll see if the deer will stay away from it. Okay, so we're at the northernmost part of the garden. It's the part that's closest to the street, which is why it's loud. So this bed was a bed from last year that we established early, and this has got all carrots and parsnips in it. And they actually look like they're doing well. Carrots you can struggle with. Even experienced gardeners struggle with carrots. This is our greens box, which most of this has kind of passed its prime. The arugula, certainly it's all bolted now, so you can still eat the flowers. They're pretty good, but the greens, not much you can do with them. And down here, I've got chard and kale, and this is all mustard, which I really prefer mustard fresh, but there's still plenty of usable mustard here. It's just since Blair's been gone, I have not been able to keep up on harvesting and eating it like I normally would be able to, because we both really like it. So this gets planted super early. I think we got this in, I want to say the end of February, beginning of March. Okay, so this is the northernmost bed. So I'll take you on this side first so you can kind of see what we did. So this right on the end here is celery. The celery, it's doing really well. It's the first time I've grown celery, but it needs to be quite a bit taller, and then I'm going to blanch it, which is something that you do, for those who haven't grown it before, what you do is you cover the stalks with newspaper and tie it off with twine. Some people just bury it in dirt. And the point there is that you want to keep the sun off the stalks. The celery, if it comes to maturity with light on it, it gets really, really bitter. So if you want it to be that lighter color celery, almost like you see in the grocery store, and then to do that you have to keep the sun off it. So you just wrap those stalks, maybe about 3 weeks before harvesting. So I got a ways to go on this. This is a new plant for me, a new herb. It's caraway. And it turned out that the rabbits liked it, so I had to put the rabbit fencing around it. This is marjoram. Okay, and this, I think some of you might have seen my Facebook post with the little baby bunny. This is where he was living, is in this little hole right here. And if you're wondering how you can tell that there's a rabbit's nest around, because sometimes they put nests in the weirdest places, they will line their nest, the mothers will line their nests with their own fur. So that presence of a lot of fur tells you there's probably a rabbit's nest around. Anyway, so coming down here, I've planted okra, which seemed like it was kind of slow to get started. It's my first time growing okra, but from what I understand, okra growers have told me that once it gets hot out, this stuff will take off and these plants will be huge, and they will be huge producers. Okra does really well here. This is artichokes. I started all 4 of these in the basement under grow lights. They probably won't give us any artichokes this year, but they should come back next year. Okay, so we're looking at the back of the pea trellis. You can see how many peas there are, and those peas that you're looking at right there are all shucking peas, so they're not like the peas where you eat the entire pod. The same with these. I posted pictures of these on Instagram the other day. I was just so amazed by them. But they're shucking peas also, doing fantastically well. They need to get a little bigger before I pull them and start shucking them. And then these are the golden sweets. And these are, you know, sugar peas, snow peas, you know, that you eat the entire thing. And they taste amazing. They're so good. This is our at least third time growing these. And these on the end didn't do quite as well. I can't remember what the variety was. I had a few seeds left, but they just didn't do as well. So because this entire trellis is shared with the beans, that's what I have planted right below. The peas will, you know, give up the ghost probably within, by the end of June. And by then the beans will have grown up and taken over the trellis. It's the first time we've tried to share the trellis like this, and I don't know how it's going to go. But I wanted to have something on the trellis, and I really wanted a lot of peas. So this is what we did. And I think of the beans, the pole beans, I've got 6 varieties of pole beans. Yeah, this is a lot. Okay, now I'm on the western side of the garden. So this is the potato box. I've got, I think, 3 different varieties planted here. They're doing really well. It is going to get hot this week, so now I need to get some straw, and Blair is going to take care of that when he gets home, because I have to really try to keep the soil as cool as possible. And in these bags, I have fingerling. There's 3 of them, so these are full of fingerlings, and if the foliage is any indication, they are doing fine. I hope the foliage is some indication. All right, here's the pink bench. And this box right here, or this bed, I keep calling them boxes, I have on one end a mound that has honeyboat delicata, and the other end a mound that has acorn squash. That's all I'm putting in this bed this year. They'll grow toward each other and they will fill this bed up. But next year, this bed is going to be dedicated to, about half of it will be asparagus and the other half will be rhubarb. And then we won't be putting anything else in this bed. Okay, so let's reorient where we are. This is just a little flower thing I did, just to put some color in here. And I've got some salad greens in that little fire ring. Okay, so I'm at the south end of the garden looking north. So here's what it looks like. Okay, this right here is kind of the onion patch. Most of it is onions. Right here on the end, I have leeks. These big leeks that you see, I started in the basement under the grow lights. They're doing fine. And then I seeded it with leeks. I can't really tell yet if any have come up. They're so wispy when they come up, it's really hard to see. So that's why I'm not weeding this right now. I don't want to accidentally pull a leek out. This chives, and all of this are 2 different kinds of yellow onions, all of which I started from seed. I really babied these guys too to get them to this point. And I think when I counted, I've got like 72. So assuming that they all grow and mature, we'll have some onions, which is good because we really do go through onions. So I'm really happy to have these. I've got some poppies there. And this is my cabbage. I was talking about this on Facebook the other day. So these are Napa cabbage. I've got 2 left. They're really looking good. One of them I'm going to harvest to make Asian slaw, and the other I'm going to make kimchi. I imagine that's going to happen this week since it's going to get so hot. I don't want them to turn bitter. And this is kohlrabi, I think. Yeah, this is kohlrabi. I always get them confused with rutabagas. I don't know why. But you can kind of see they're doing really well. I don't know when to harvest these. I have to do some research because I just don't know. They're really doing well. I grew up with kohlrabi, but we never grew it. It was just something that Mom put in stuff all the time because it's one of those things that can grow in northern Norway, so she was used to it. Okay, this is the garlic patch. and it's got beets here on the end. That white stuff is diatomaceous earth. I had to fence this off because the rabbits were eating my beets. It's so stupid. I should have realized rabbits would eat beets. I mean, why wouldn't they? So anyway, I fenced it off, and since then they've been better, but now the beetles are getting to them, so I'd put diatomaceous earth to kind of stop that. So the garlic, all of this here that you're seeing is softneck. So this is softneck up to here, and this is all hardneck. Just starting to see signs of scapes. Oh yeah, here we go. Here's some scapes. These are really good to eat too on hardneck. So I'll be cutting scapes off probably in the next week or so. And usually we harvest the garlic around the 4th of July. So we will have a lot of garlic this year. Oh yeah, these scapes are beautiful. And this on the end is elephant garlic. I only did a few of those just because I find I get more use cooking from hardneck and softneck. Okay, this is the raspberry patch. So some of the raspberries are already starting to set flowers. Just a couple of these. We've got quite a few. And I don't know how much we'll get this year. Some of these are just so very slow growers and stuff that we have not tried growing before, so I don't know what we're going to get. We've also put some dill in here, just hoping that the dill will spread and take over, as it tends to do. This little fire ring, I did have radishes in here, but pulled those out. And so now I've got some sunflowers growing in the middle here, mostly dwarf sunflowers, and then around the edge, haven't come up yet, but I completely seeded it with nasturtium. So I love growing nasturtium. Okay, let's go take a look at these beds. So as you can see, we've got 4 beds here, all planted. This is corn, sweet corn. I've got 3 different varieties here. The first one I was excited about because I've never seen a red variety of sweet corn, and I saw it in a seed catalog and thought I'd give it a try. So I have 4 rows of double red sweet corn, about 4 rows of Stoll's Evergreen, which is kind of a white sweet corn, and then half the bed is a very reliable sweet corn that gets used a lot around here. It's Illini Super Sweet. So that was developed here in Illinois. So yeah, I'm excited about that because that's the kind of corn that we always like to find. This is the bush bean bed. And I've got, what have I got here? 4 varieties of bush beans. About half of the bed is edamame. We do love edamame, so that's why we wanted more of that. And then these, we've got 2 rows right here of lima, which I'll pick those young, shuck them young and use them as butter beans, which is a kind of a big southern thing. And these, I think I've got 3 rows of here of borlatos, which I've never tried before, but kind of the gardening community, everyone's talking about these borlato beans, so I thought I'd give them a shot. And then I've got 3 rows of tongues of fire, which I have grown before, and I really love these beans. They're so really wonderful and meaty and tasty. And then down here, I put nasturtium in, and oh snap, my nasturtium's coming up, yay! So that's good to see. Nasturtium's such a great filler flower. It just really fills in any bare spaces that you have. So these are collards, all the white stuff again, diatomaceous earth. I'll probably be harvesting these pretty soon. You can get generally 2 crops a year of collards. They're pretty hardy. They don't even seem to mind heat all that much. And then so there's arbor between these 2 beds. On this side I have 3 different kinds of cucumbers. Yeah, I've got Dragon's Egg, Martini, and Lime Crisp cucumbers. Our cucumbers did really well last year, so I'm hoping for the same this year. And on this bed, going down the middle, I have tamarillos. The first time I've grown these, I don't really know what to expect. It was just an experiment, and I've seen some pretty cool recipes for tamarillos, so I'm going to give it a shot. And then I've got petunias that I started in the basement that are here. Then the middle, I just planted these the other day, is 4 varieties of melon. So there's sugar baby watermelons. Charentais, Kajaris, and Haojins. These are all little melons, so we shouldn't have any problem training them to grow on the arbor. Okay, let me reorient us again. So this middle bit, you can see there are seven beds here. These are mostly peppers. There's a few exceptions, but these on the end are kind of miscellaneous peppers. Some of these that I'll use to pickle. And there's also shishitos here, which I've never grown, but are kind of the it pepper, like everyone seems to talk about shishitos. So I wanted to give those a try. I've got more miscellaneous peppers here. So there's some peperoncini, there's some pimento peppers, and paprika, which I will dry. Then, so as you can see, there's another arbor here. On this side of the arbor and on that side of the arbor, I have planted runner beans. I don't think we're going to do anything with these. We're just going to let them grow. They're beautiful when they flower, and I've got about 4 different kinds here, so the flowers will be very unique and different. But the pollinators just love it. Like we have noticed, we get more bees and hummingbirds and butterflies in our garden when we have runner beans growing. So we're definitely going to have these every year, but I did a lot this year. These are bell peppers. Then over here is a second strawberry bed that we started. So some of these are quinault, and then some that I started from seed, which is really hard to do. These right here, these are trescas. You only get a packet of strawberry seeds and you have about a 30% germination rate. They're really, really low, but I did manage to get some. They just are growing slow. So eventually they'll take over the entire bed. But for this year, since they won't, I planted 2 tomatillos. So we'll pull those out this fall, and then the strawberries will very likely take over the entire bed for next year. For this bed, I've got ground cherries, and then these right here are garbanzos, and these are Chinese noodle beans. And so they'll grow up the arbor, be cool to look at. You should always have cool things to look at in your garden, you know. Sunflower seeds. And this is more bell peppers. And on this side, I've got 2 kinds of black beans. One is called the Calypso. That's what's right here. Those beans are so cool looking too. They're black and white. They remind me of orca whales. They're just so very beautiful. So I'm excited about that. And these are called Cherokee Trail of Tears. And these are black beans as well. So we will be drying these and using them. And then this is bell peppers. We use a lot of bell peppers, so that's why we have so many, but still less than we had last year. Last year was insane with the bell peppers. Okay, so this are the 2, I'll go down to the end here so you can see it, but these are the tomato rows. I don't really see a reason to introduce you to each of these tomatoes, but go to the end so you can see them. So I think these are, if I remember correctly, these are each 40 feet long. So, and there's a huge variety again of tomatoes here. This was the variety year for us. So I have grown a bigger variety this year than I ever have. On this one, the bed is split between tomatoes on one side and basil on the other. And again, variety. We're definitely going for diversity in our plantings this year. So I think I've got 6 different kinds of basil. Then the end of this bed, we planted peas. These are about 2 weeks behind the other peas I showed you. So that's why they haven't started to set pods yet, but they're starting to get here. I'm seeing some little ones. So, and these are snow peas. So we don't have to shuck these. So there's a variety there as well. So the other thing I wanted to mention, I think I've already said this before in another video, is that the goal for us was to get rid of all of this grass that you see growing here. And we're going to kill the grass and put down mulch. Grass is just the bane of our existence. So just get rid of all of it. And Sorry, were so many goals that we had, but then of course Blair deployed, so a lot of this has been put off until he gets back, including the mulching of the grass, getting rid of all of it, and putting up the fence that will surround the perimeter of the garden. And then this space right here, this big space, it's usually shaded when the walnut tree is completely leafed out. So he was going to build a little pergola thing with just a swing in it. Not as big as the one we had in Mattoon, but he is going to build one here. So this is the garden. Maybe you can see why I love so much spending time in this space. It's just wonderful, and every day there's something new. So it's been just a joy this year. And I think will be a bigger joy as we get into summer and when Blair comes home and can see it. So, yeah, there's a lot of crappy things going on in the world right now. And I don't know, everyone needs to have their little respite. Yeah, this is it for me. So even though it's been really hard having Blair away, it's been hard going through a pandemic alone. Things could be way worse. I think any of my friends and fellow citizens of color could tell me how much worse things can be. So, man, I am not complaining. Anyway, so I really am going to miss not seeing my family this year. I hope that things will change enough next year so that we can see each other, that we can be together. But I know that we're all being held hostage by this virus, and so we will just have to do what we can do. Meanwhile, I'll try to provide these, and I'll hopefully get better as a filmmaker as we go along, so these will not look so amateurish. But there it is. I miss you all. I love you all. And I hope that we'll be talking soon. Bye.